Hey guys, it's Klaxu here with a June 2018 Gods of Olympus update sneak peek. So getting into the main new features, and by far the most important one is this new city layout editor. Now this is not a true city editor, but it is certainly the groundwork for a lot of new tools to allow you to edit your city more easily. I, for one, have stuck with the same layout for a very long time because it was too painful to try and move things around, try to sell things, cost a lot of gems. So I've kept the same layout for a very long time. But with this new city layout editor, what it does is it unlocks different layouts or slots for creating new cities, and you buy additional slots using Ambrosia. So hopefully you've saved some up, and if not, start saving it now. Okay, so going into the UI a little bit more, you can see that there's only a couple basic editor buttons right now. They are edit, copy, and active. So they're fairly self-explanatory, but let me explain them anyway a little bit. So edit allows you to change which base you're working on. So I switched from 1 to 2, and you can see 1 was my classic stretch layout. This is now a very compact, hard-hitting layout on number 2, and I created a third base, number 3, which is kind of like an island layout, which requires a lot more travel time for the gods to move around. So you can see that you have multiple bases, and then only one of them is active at a given time. And this is indicated on the left when you are editing by this under construction icon. It means that this city will not be attacked. So if you want to edit your city and not be attacked, you can just switch to a different layout. Or another thing you can do is you can copy and paste different layouts. So if, let's say, number 1 is my active layout, it's the one I want to keep using, but I want to make some edits to it, I can copy it from 1 over to 4, and you can see that you cannot copy and paste over the city that you currently have selected. So you can, though, copy over a different layout, so just be careful with the copy paste feature that you're not pasting over something interesting. So this is pretty much a default layout with just a few temples unlocked, and I'm going to paste over that. Alright, now I can start editing it. It's not active, so I can go and upgrade things. I can do whatever I want to do, and once I'm happy with that, I can go back in and say, alright, now make this my active layout. And I've got those changes. Or maybe I wanted to move some temples around. Well, in the past, that meant that when someone attacked you, you had big holes in your base. But now you can use an inactive layout. Well, this is my active layout, but you can use an inactive layout and then swap back to your active layout after you're done, or swap your layouts. It's up to you, whatever you want to do. Another thing that's kind of cool is you have, let me swap to this one, you can start over from scratch. So rather than having to sell off every single temple one by one and spending a ton of gems to do it, you can just start from scratch when you create a new layout. So I recommend leaving a layout that's empty or just has, some basic things there. And here I am. I can start over from scratch, and kind of cool. You can even decide, hey, maybe I don't want a Zeus temple. Maybe I'm going to just have a Poseidon and Athena temples. And that's now possible for the first time. You have a way to remove certain temples. So, not quite selling them, but they are now gone. However, you cannot have this base which is pretty much literally zeroed. You cannot make it active. Ali's going to pop up and say, hey, yo, wait a minute, that's a little bit too weak. So the reason or the calculations for what's too weak are kind of beyond my understanding. So you'll just notice though, if you have a base which is quite weak, if you haven't invested very much stone, it won't allow you to change to it. So not really a problem when you're editing your existing bases, but if you're constructing a new base, sometimes it takes a while to reach that threshold which allows you to make it active. One other thing to note, as you are editing your bases in the layouts, you'll see these minus 5 million gold, minus 41 million stone. So depending on what you've bought for each layout, you might have different amount of stone or gold invested. So gold between gold statues and whatever. So if I am working on my second base where I don't have any gold statues or anything, and I was to spend some gold to update a god, like let's give Zeus a little bit more health. And so now I have 7.7 million gold. And if I go back to the city editor and I say, well, I want to swap to layout 1, well, layout 1 would require 9.3 million gold more invested in the base than what I've invested in my current base that I'm editing. And I only have 7.7 million gold, so that's not going to work out too well. So what are my options? Well, one, you can farm until you have enough gold to pay for it, or if you hit edit, it'll prompt you and say, hey, you don't have enough gold. Do you want to sell off some of these buildings? Now, it doesn't give you the option to say, what do you want to sell? But it does allow you to sell those. So now you can see that where I had a market and a statue pavilion, now I have nothing. So instead, let me sell off a couple of these gold statues to pay for my missing market. Can't live without a market. So now I can put that back. And I had a statue pavilion up here. So just keep that in mind, that if you spend all of your gold and then you try to swap back to a layout that doesn't have or has a lot of gold statues and things, you're probably going to have to sell them off. So as I said, this is not really a true city editor yet, but there are a few things that you'll see that can be used to help get more information about your base. So one thing, which I call the multi-tap, if you highlight something and then you select it again, you see that it selects everything of that type. And in the case of resources, allows you to gather them all with just one button press. So that can certainly save time. And when I go over to my base in the past, the only way to know how many archery ranges do I have was to go to the achievements tab and see how many am I at. Now, of course, if you've unlocked 10 Archimedes towers, well then anything beyond that you don't know. And if at some point you had 10 but you sold back down to 5, how many do you have? No, there was no way to know. However, now you have the multi-tap, so if I tap on archery range, then I tap on the same one again, it shows me I have 15 archery ranges. If you tap it again, you have 30 total barracks, which is archery ranges and the academies. And then one last time, and I have 248 buildings. Pretty cool. Another thing that you can see if you tap on these, let me tap the info button, and I can see all my towers, and I see that I have 53 towers. And I can scroll through them and I can see, and if I'm looking, if you're like me and you're kind of a bit anal, you want everything to be the same. So you see, oops, I have an arrow tower here that is not fully leveled, and I would like to level that up some more. So right now, you only can bring up info and you can see information about it, but it doesn't really tell you where it is. So, I think at some point they will probably add an upgrade button right here and perhaps a cell, multi-cell, multi-upgrade. These are hopefully things that will come in the next updates or subsequent updates. But for now, you can quickly see how many Archimedes towers you have, and you can also get a picture of what each of your monument levels are at. Oops, look at that, my monument to Hera. I forgot to upgrade the health. So, things like that you can start figuring out with this new editor. So let me just upgrade. Unfortunately, don't have enough stone to upgrade it all the way, but there you go. That's a bit better. So the next thing I'd like to talk about is some of the balance changes in this. And for the most part, these can be summarized as massive defensive boosts. So one thing to notice is the environments went from a 20% boost from the temple to a 100% boost, which is pretty massive. And certainly as you are attacking bases, you will probably want to prioritize defeating the environmental temple first. So the environment boost went from 20% to 100% for the temple. However, the houses remain at a 20% boost. And also, the health boost, the 20% health boost, has gone away. And I can quickly demonstrate that. Over here, you can see that the health boost is entirely from Athena, and I don't have a temple matching my environment because this is a Zeus environment, so let me put a Zeus environment. So the boost is 193 here, and the boost on the environmental temple is also 193, so there's no more 20% extra bonus for the environment boost. Now, along with the environment boost, some of your weaker temples got boosts. So the Hades Reanimate used to be, I think, 36 or 40%. It's now 50%, so that got a big boost. And also, Aphrodite, I think, went from 26 to 35%. And the biggest boost of them all is Hera, who went from 26% to 50%. So almost a 100% boost in her explosion bonus. So check that out. Another thing to note is the health of all temples has been increased. So it was 52 or 53k, now it's 58.3k as the base health. And I think what that will cause is you'll see it'll be a lot harder for a god to solo a single temple. And also just makes temples harder to defeat and a boost to defense. I've been playing with this new beta mode for a couple of weeks, and you can see the net effect on me is that my offensive trophies tanked by about 300 or 400 trophies. And my defensive, because I'm on the new version, I have not been in the defensive pool for quite a while, so I don't know what my defense will be with the new update, but I would be surprised if it doesn't go up. So most likely you'll see, rather than your offensive trophies being a few hundred above your defensive trophies, you'll probably see something vice versa, where most people will probably have higher defensive trophies than offensive trophies. I think it's going to be interesting, and there's going to take some time for the dust to settle, but I think that overall the balance between the temples is much better. Pretty much all the temples got a slight boost. So Ares went from 26 to 30. I believe Artemis the same. And actually, Athena was dropped a little bit from 26 down to 22. And I believe Zeus was dropped from 12 or 13 down to 11. So in general, I find as I'm attacking bases, rather than just trying to prioritize blue or green, now I need to look around a little bit and try to prioritize the environmental temple, and then just kind of look at the base and see what are the strengths and weaknesses, and not just try to attack the same temple no matter what the base is. So hopefully you'll find the balance is much more enjoyable and provides for a better variety of bases.